Hi, I'm your host Vasco Duarte. Welcome to the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, where we share tips and tricks from Scrum Masters around the world. Every day, we bring you inspiring answers to important questions that all Scrum Masters face day after day. Hello everybody, welcome to our Wednesday Leading Change, this week with Jacy Ong. Hi Jacy, welcome back.
Hi again, Vasco. So happy to be here.
And we are happy too to have you here and to listen to one story you have to share about leading change. I mean, as Scrum Masters, we are all the time facing change processes, whether it's, individual or team level or organization. There's all kinds of change going on all the time. And sometimes it's bigger change, sometimes it's smaller change. But for all of those, we need to kind of sharpen our change leadership skills, as I usually say here on the podcast. So, Jacy, share with us one such story where you were personally involved in one of those change processes, and then walk us through the tips, the tricks, the techniques you learned at that time that you still use today.
Right. Okay. So a most recent experience that I've had is with a team that deals a lot with the legal processes. So to put it simply, in my organization currently, we are trying to scale agile into other parts of the organization as well. So we identified a functional team that deals with legal, and we approach them as well to introduce the idea of agile, right? But what happened, if I could just fast forward to what happened in that interaction, was so we engaged with them. We started to introduce them about agile way of working, and also we seeked out to understand what exactly their processes are currently and what is actually holding them back. So all was actually going quite well until when we were following up with the team, with the legal team, and we didn't get any responses at all. So you can imagine that it's a group chat, and it's just me and my team. We are sending messages to the other team, but we are not getting responses at all. So in a way, we were being ghosted by the other team. So because of that, I decided to just approach one of them individually to understand the reason why there wasn't any responses. Perhaps they were too busy or too preoccupied at that moment. So I did reach out to one of them, and one of them just said to me like, "Hey, actually, can you guys ease it down a notch a little bit?" So that response just made me and the team realize that, okay, perhaps we have been too persistent or not understanding of their current situation, where if we approach them too frequent or we send them reminders too much, it may just irritate them further. So that is a journey of change that we've encountered so far, where it started pretty positively. Both sides were agreeing to it, like, hey, let's try this out. However, it's also a mistake on our part for getting too carried away, probably, and that somehow irritated the other party. So currently we are at a standstill currently. So there's no progress at the moment. So that is an interesting journey, I would say, when it comes to trying to lead change towards other departments of the organization that is not doing agile or being agile. Sorry.
So let's dive a little bit more into this. Many of our listeners are probably struggling with a similar situation. Definitely introducing Agile to teams outside IT or outside product development is something that is more and more common. And we need to know how to do it. So you've told us the first part of the story, which is what's happened so far, but of course, we can think about, okay, so what do we do next? And right now you're, as far as I understand it, you're in a situation where the team is there and maybe they even want to adopt Agile, but either they can't see what the benefit is or they don't see how that applies to their work. That's actually one of the pushbacks I've heard the most often is like, Agile doesn't work outside product development or outside engineering. That's one of the things I've heard the most often. Don't know if you heard that too, but let's walk through what might be some options for you to get back to that productive conversation with the team. So what have you thought that you and your team could do to engage again with that legal team?
So So one thing that we tried and we noticed that it was working was to let the team go on about their daily work, right? Because clearly they have their own work as well, and instead we put a request or we put an ask to them like, hey, could you guys let us know when you would be available? Perhaps if not this month, maybe next month, or maybe the next quarter. So we try to get them to propose a timing where both sides can actually meet up and engage again, instead of maybe reminding them every day like, hey, any response to this, any response to this. So we let them decide when they are ready to talk to us instead. So that has been working so far. That is something that I think if the listeners are listening to this, that is something that you guys can try. So you give them the ownership to decide when they want to even engage with you in the future.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of something that a friend shared with me quite a few years ago. This idea of agile adoption through pull rather than push, where support and coaching is made available to the teams, but the teams are the ones that take the initiative. They do the first contact. They start the process of change. And of course, that means that there's a lot higher commitment by the teams who actually start adopting, even though not all the teams will necessarily start adopting Agile in that form.
Yep. That is very, very true.
It also speaks to the idea of giving space for the teams to take ownership, like you said. And that's a tip we can use in many other aspects, right? It does not, like you were talking about introducing Agile into a team that is not directly involved in engineering or product development, but the idea of introducing that permission-based coaching, right? Like I give you permission to ask for support rather than here's my support, take it.
Yes. So sometimes it's also very important to get consent as well, to ask for permission if they are ready or they even want to be coached or to be supported by you. So sometimes, we should always be mindful as Scrum Masters and perhaps Agile coaches that we shouldn't impose upon others as well.
Absolutely. And something that perspective of allowing others to ask for support is something that also makes our role more sustainable, right? Because if we try to push, we might be pushing too much for them, but also for us, taking on too much work, taking on too many teams, taking on too much responsibility.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Definitely can relate to that.
Jacy, thank you very much for sharing this story with us.
You're welcome. Happy to share.
Leading change is one of the core skills we must acquire, but it is only one of the steps towards our success as Scrum Masters. Tomorrow, on Success Thursday, we will talk about how to define success for the Scrum Master role, we'll cover tips on how to measure your way to that position, and most importantly, how to develop that focus on continuous improvement that is as important for Scrum Masters as it is for teams. See you tomorrow. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.